In the last video, we went over the financial planning pyramid and how exactly it works. We started with financial level, savings, and then we went into the investment levels. If you haven't watched that video, go ahead, watch that video, and then come back and watch this one. Because in this one, we're gonna go into detail on how to get to financial freedom, or essentially how do we plan to get there? How do we use the financial planning pyramid to get to financial freedom, or just get your finances in order, right? So we're gonna start off with the adequate income, right? You have a job, you have a 9 to 5, you have whatever source of income it is, right? Or however many, right? So sources of income, right? You have sources of income, however many you want or you have, and this is gonna be, I'll make that a circle, that way it doesn't confuse anyone. SOIs. So you can have as many SOIs as you want, but essentially this is going to be bringing in your income. Now the income is going to be, let's say, 3,500, right? I think that's a pretty decent number. All right. So from your income, right, this is going to be a bank account. All that money that comes from your job goes into your bank account. From your bank account, the only purpose for this account is a checkings account. The only purpose is to have all your income coming into it, right? So that way, if you have multiple SOIs, it's all coming into that one account, right? So from that one account, I break down into, you can do this however you want, but this is how I have it set it up. This is how I have it set up, and this is how I teach it when I teach it to other Marines. This is how I teach it to anybody that really wants my help doing this, right? But essentially, you have your income, then you're gonna have your 4 accounts, right? Those 4 accounts are gonna be your operations account, then you're gonna have your investments account, then you have your emergency account, then you have your go-getter. So you have your operations, you have your investments, you have your emergency, and your go-getter, right? Now these percentages that I'm gonna go over, these are general percentages. You can manipulate the percentages however you want, but for easy math, I'm gonna keep these percentages very, very basic, right? So let's say you live off of 50% of your income, your total income, right? So you live off of 50% of your total income. So 50% of your total income, that's gonna be, what is that, 1750. Then for your investments, right, you're gonna have, let's say 10%. 10%, your emergency, let's say another 10%. Your go-getter, let's say it's, let's say 10% as well. Let's say this is how you have your fund set up, and I know that doesn't add up to 100. We're not there yet, all right? So this is pretty simple, this is pretty straightforward. Let's do the math real quick. So 1750, 10% of that is going to be 350, 350, 350. So this is pretty easy, right, to do. You just go to your bank, you tell them that you want to create accounts, right? If your bank doesn't let you open up multiple accounts without a fee, you got to get to another account, to another bank, right? But you open up a checkings account for your income, right? From that checkings account, you have your direct deposit going into there. Then you have your operations, right? This has to be a checkings account. That way you can pay bills off of that. Then you have your investments. This has to also be a checkings account, because later on when you start depositing into your investments account, you're not going to be able to if it's a savings. then this can be a savings, and then this can be a savings or a checking. All right. This, I recommend a high yield savings account, and we'll talk about that later. So the reason I have it set up like this is because we need this, right? The operation is going to be anything you need. This is going to be essentially your reserves. This is going to be the money that you have for that month, right? Anything you need to operate within that month. That's why it's called operations. Then you have your investments, right? I like to pay myself first, right? I like to put money into my emergency and my investments first, and then my operations and my go-getter, right? So I'm gonna put that right here. I think that's kind of important. Right? Pay yourself first. So I say pay yourself first. So you put that 10% there or 15%, whatever you want, but that goes in first after your emergency, right? So once you have your emergencies figured out, you can start putting that into your investments, right? But for my emergency, I try and keep a 10, 15, 20% going into it at all times, but you want to build your emergencies to 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses, right? 3 to 6 months. As quickly as possible. That way you can start allocating that money that goes into your investments, or you can start using it into your go-getter or operations, right? So from after you have this, right, now you have 20% left over, right? So you have 20% left over. That 20% is going to be, that's going to be $700. Now, that $700, you're going to be using it for your guilt-free spending, right? So there's two ways to go about it. You can take that $700 and just run it through the funnel again, right? Allocate it to whichever section you want, or I like to keep it just in case anything. I like to use this more as my guilt-free spending, going out, having fun now, right? So I have my operations that helps me survive, right? That's gonna be my groceries, my rent, any bills that I have, any essentials, and then guilt-free spending is gonna be spending the night with the boys, right? Going out drinking, whatever it is that you do. This is gonna be your guilt-free spending, right? I like to keep the numbers a little different, but everyone needs to have a life, right? So that's what that guilt-free spending is going to be for, right? So we just went over essentially how to allocate your money, right? Now, what this does is it automates your finances. The key to automating your finances is that you create a system and you stick to that system, right? You have to be disciplined in order to get to your financial freedom, right? Your financial freedom is going to be, you determine what financial freedom is, right? But financial freedom, right? So financial freedom, this is going to vary between people. Some people have different definitions of what it is for them, right? So you kind of have to define what financial freedom is, right? For me, financial freedom is not working for anyone else, right? So some people just want to not have a boss, right? So which is kind of funny, because once you start getting into later down the road, you start getting into investments and businesses. You don't have one boss, but you trade that one boss for 100 bosses, right? Which is your customers and clients. But for some people, not working for anyone else, that is just as simple as that. That's financial freedom, right? Another thing is spending time with family, right? Being able to spend more time with family, right? So more time with family, right? And for me, I'll keep it at this, right? But financial freedom is essentially not working for anyone else, and then more time with family, right? Now, why is this important? because this is what keeps you disciplined with your system, right? That's what keeps you accountable for the system that you create for yourself. This is what works for me. This is how I like to allocate it. This is how I'm going to get here, right? Because as I create more sources of income, I'm going to start manipulating these numbers to where I can live off of the same amount, invest a little bit more, take the money that I already allocated to my emergencies, leave it alone, and then the money that I allocate on a monthly basis, I'm going to take that and put it into my investments, right? And then the go-getter, I'm just going to keep adding that up until I get to the number that I need to take that vacation or buy that laptop. Whatever it is the case, that's what I'll use that money for, and that's what I'll keep it there for, right? So same thing with this guilt-free spending. You can either allocate it to your investments or your savings or your go-getter, right? But essentially, this is just a system that gets you to your financial freedom or puts you in the right path to your goals, right? So thank you for watching this one. Hit that like button at the bottom. Go ahead and comment if this is useful, if you have any questions, and how can I make this more useful for you, all right? Thank you.